talked yesterday about how long they've been with the company, so I thought I would mention I've been on this project 3 weeks. So maybe I'm the short timer here. Also, unlike Murat, I'm going to speak from some notes. I'll have Melody helping me. Melody is the project manager on the development team, and she's going to keep me honest. And I'll have to apologize for the voice. I don't know, a little bit of pollen getting me here today. But as Murat mentioned, one of the tools, systems, and processes is ECOMS, and I think as time goes on, this is going to become a very integral part of the entire process. So as part of the presentation, we'll do a little bit of an introduction and background of the development of the project. We'll go through some PowerPoint slides, which will essentially comprise your training. And we'll do a short system demo, and we'll have a question and answer period. I thought it was important to associate what we're doing in ECOMS with the Enron Communications mission. This came from corporate communications. You're delivering a platform for the new net economy, and what we want ECOMS to do is create an infrastructure to support that. Once the decision was made to create an order management system, a team was put together. Kinney Burroughs was identified as the sponsor. A number of other individuals were identified as subject matter experts in their area, and Wisdom Consulting was contacted to provide the development resources. One of the things that they discussed that was critical to this was that there be a data warehousing of all of the order information. So that's a key. Also, that there would be things created called product codes, and that orders and throughout the system, those codes once identified, everything would key off of those codes. I'm sure you're going to get to know some of those. One of the other things that was decided was that customer data would come from SAP. So customer data is not entered in ECOMS. We have contact information, but the customer data per se is not. Department managers will be responsible for scheduling task flows within the system. And those of us involved in development will have access to the people within ECI as needed. Also, that there would be ECI standards developed prior to the system implementation. So we have a phase 1, release 1, that's being initiated. We wanted to get something into production as quickly as possible. So phase 1's goal was to transition from what currently I believe is a paper-based system into a mechanized system where we can capture the data. We not only want to capture the order data, we want to facilitate the flow of the orders and the task related. We'll talk a little bit more about tasks. Release 1. It's scheduled for September 13th for implementation. The version that we're currently working with is in beta test. And this release we're expecting to be, this is our infrastructure for delivering our services. We're going to be able to enter order directly. We're going to be able to track the progress of that order. And we're going to be able to assign tasks associated with that order. In addition, we're going to assign circuit IDs for those circuits. And ECOMS will generate a serial number associated with each order, and that will be unique within the system. And that will be part of that circuit ID for ECI. The release 1 of the system will provide the capability to indicate when an order is in jeopardy. And that can be done at the task level. The system determines that. The system will have the capability to generate circuit and equipment tasks based on predefined provisioning plans. And that's where I guess the real meat of the system is. You won't be seeing much of that today. You won't be involved. But in the background, individuals in the other departments are responsible for creating sets of predefined tasks. And those tasks are associated with equipment installation. Those tasks are associated with circuit provisioning. So that when an order is created, the system automatically generates the set of tasks associated with both circuit and equipment. In addition, the system is going to maintain contact information and location information. Yes?
You addressed circuit IDs up there. Could you go into that a little more specifically as to what information you're looking for there? How far toward the customer does that extend?
I can't answer that. Can you?
Just wait, he'll get to it.
He'll get to it. Okay.
And if not, we'll work on an answer here. So with that in mind, the basic functions that we're going to provide is the ability to enter a service order and maintain that order, to be able to assign tasks, and we have task queue management, which is essentially to be able to work with both sub-circuits and equipment detail. The ability to maintain the data within the system, and we're going to have history storage and search capability. Murat was mentioning earlier, in fact, he spent a fair amount of time talking about the holes in the process. Well, we have a few in ECOMS, and again, this is release 1. This is what's not included, and the reason I've chosen to show that to you is, you may say, well, why doesn't it do this? Well, you may find it on the list. This is our list of holes, if you will. The team is in the process of identifying functionality that they believe is needed in the system. That's being prioritized, and once management decides, then we'll be coming out with phase 2. And so as time goes on, you'll see the system contain more and more functionality. I am not going to read through the list. Just want to show you that there are a large number of items. About 3 pages here. This is all at a high level that we will be working on. And if there's some favorite function that you see missing, I guess let Murat know. We'll add it to the list. That's basically the background. Perhaps go ahead and bring up, click again for the lower part. Thank you. This is similar to Murat's slide, but what I've done is I've associated the ECOM support functions in the upper boxes above the processes, so that primarily sales engineering will be involved with placing the new order, completing and posting an order, potentially providing location maintenance and search capability. Then for circuit provisioning, facilities, and network, the other functions apply. That's where the circuit assignments are made, task assignments, equipment, searching. And again, we have update capability. We also have jeopardy notification and task completion capability for the individuals doing the work. We'll be able to complete their tasks. Once it's in test and acceptance, still have the ability to do jeopardy notification and task completion.
I mean, this is all
yes.
significant in terms of any customer that we're connecting to. So whether it's media cast and we're taking content from a customer, we need to connect to them somehow to get to that content. Or if it's an ISP who is going to be distributing our content, again, we need to go through this process to be able to connect to them, to get them a circuit, to get the facilities prepared, to get equipment there to interconnect with them. Or if it's media transport on a dedicated basis, we have to go through all these steps again to make sure that we set up and connect with them appropriately. So ECOMS will be tracking all of those as well as upcoming products that we'll be able to track through the system.
Right. And again, like I mentioned before, as time goes on, you'll see more and more support functions in each of those areas. Within the service order and maintenance capability, you have the ability to place new orders, pinned orders, and that's an important function, and post those orders. If you expect to make any changes at all to that order, you want to pin it, because once it's posted, you can't unpost it. Okay? Well, once it's in, it becomes an in-process order. You'll have the ability to look at them, look at the in-process orders, as well as completed or canceled. I'm going to mention here, and you'll see elsewhere, that in order to cancel an order, if you will, you have to call Murat. Okay? And that will be enforced by the system. An order can be canceled before or after it's been posted. Within task assignment, each department is responsible for assigning the task to their staff. At the time that, as I mentioned before, I think is the time that the order is posted, the system generates all of the tasks based on the characteristics of the product order, because there's an association within the system between that, that product order number, circuit, and equipment. So those tasks are all associated, so they're automatically generated. But each of these areas will be responsible for going into the system and seeing that the system-generated tasks are correct and adding additional tasks or making changes. Task queue management within the system is where we make changes to some of the detail. Once equipment has been assigned, we can go in and add additional equipment. We add serial number to the equipment that's associated with the order, as an example. In the case of circuit assignment, additional subcircuits can be assigned to the order. Within user-assigned task, once users have gone in and identified their task in the system, they go in and show completion. For data maintenance, we can go directly to the data that's stored in the system. So we can look at it where we have location. We have silly codes. We can add and update those locations. Within equipment is where we create our equipment initially. Task, again, this is where tasks are created. Can be looked at. We have a couple areas that sound a little different. Package construction and template construction. And I don't believe any of you will have responsibility for doing that. But just so you know, under package construction in the system is where we package sets of equipment with equipment package codes. And again, these codes are used within the system. And you'll see the code in the product code itself. Also within package construction is where we assign circuits to products, predefined for the system to use. Within template construction, we assign equipment to equipment package codes. This essentially establishes the bill of material for the order. Within template construction, tasks are assigned. Within data maintenance, we can maintain contact information. Then we have resource groups. Within ECOMS, we do not have departments, even though you will see provisioning and customer engineering as titles. Within ECOMS, those are resource groups, and the reason for that is that ECOMS allows the assignment of tasks across departments. So if an individual in provisioning is assigned a task in customer engineering, they will show up in the customer engineering resource group. And if they're assigned a task within provisioning, they will show up there also. So there's not a hard breakdown, if you will, between departments. So this provides some flexibility in the system to assign people across departments. And we have history, storage, and search. We can go look up orders, tasks, circuits, equipment. As far as I know, there's not going to be any restriction on searching capability to anybody. Yes? No, got a phone call there, okay. System contacts. We've identified some folks within the other departments that have responsibility for being the point person, if you will, relative to ECOMS, whether it be problems or whether it be questions. Within sales engineering, we're still working on a name. Initially, the ECOMS document is going to be stored in Lotus Notes, and that's located at the EC reference ECOMS address that you see there. And we're going to be storing project documents there. We'll have the standards. We have the NC codes. And later on today, I'll have on one of the tables here somewhere handouts of the NC codes. Also, training information will be available to you.
By the way, for sales engineers, it's important to know where this is. Find it, and also these NC codes are going to be important, as you'll see further on, in order to initiate a service.
And I also expect that we'll be sending out emails to folks telling you where this stuff is and what's been added, and probably more than you ever wanted to know. I want to identify the team contributors. Any problems with anything, call Kenny. No, don't. But a lot of people have put together a lot of hard work and effort to bring this together, and there's just a list of names to give them credit. I want to show you what, on the slides here, what the basic look is, if you will. We have an ECOMS icon, and no, it won't be that big on your screen, but when ECOMS is loaded, it'll automatically populate an icon onto your screen for you. Next. You will be required to enter your username, password, and server. What you see on the screen is not what's going to be in production. We don't even have the name of the production database at this point, but that's a screen you'll see and be required to fill out, and you'll be told what to put in there when the time comes. What you're looking at is a screen for an in-process order. In other words, the information's been filled out. But what I want to point out are what I'm calling basic or common screen functions. None of these things have anything to do with filling out the form other than helping you find where stuff is. Please notice the caption bar. It says in-process service order form. That caption bar will always indicate the function that you're in. It'll also indicate the form that's currently being displayed. You see basically three columns. You have a left narrow column, a middle column, and the far right with the form. The left column consists of list groups, which are bars that, and we'll see some here in the demo. You basically click on the bar and it opens up, shows you the functions available to you. So within sales engineering, you'll see the functions. Within orders, there are functions with each of the others. The second column consists of, in most cases, you'll get a selection tree that consists of the customer name with the orders associated with that customer. Now notice we had clicked in process as a function, so the only orders that show in that list are in process orders. And as you may guess, red ones mean in jeopardy, and this is test data. Hope we never have any of those, right? So within the selection tree, we have, I'm just going to point here. This is in the case where an order has been selected to be displayed, and that's the order that is displayed. At the very bottom, we have a status bar. You've probably, you've worked a number of other applications, and some information shows up on the status bar, and I know in many cases I can do without it. I tend to ignore it. But in this case, we have an order number. We have the status, which is in process, and then you see a P2AA. That's the order number as it exists at that point in time. And then you have the customer name. Well, one of the requirements when developing the system was that on any screen, at any time, you could get to either order number detail or customer detail. So every screen that comes up with a form, you can click on those two and see the detail, or either of those two. Now we're going to talk about service order entry and searching. We're going to look at new orders, location maintenance, and pending. And I know Murat mentioned it, but just to reiterate, the customer must be established in SAP. If you can't find the customer on the list, they're not in SAP. And I don't know what your process is for making sure that that happens. Product must exist in the product table. It comes from another group, right? You have a product development group. If they haven't created the product that you're trying to put into the order, it's not going to be here. So this speaks back again to the processes that Murat was talking about. Those things should have all have occurred, I would think, hopefully, before you're ready to place an order. Cannot post an order till we have a valid product circuit combination, which has been the responsibility of others. And as I mentioned before, only Marat can cancel an order. I tend to think of these as fairly straightforward. Any of you can take issue at any time. Once you've selected sales engineering, you're able to create either a new order or look at pending order. In this case, we're going to enter data into a new order, and we're going to do this in the demo. And so you have a number of fields. They have drop-down lists. They have the ability to view detail once you've selected an item. For instance, within customer, if you've selected a customer, you click on the icon that says view detail, and it will do a pop-up on that. If you have the binoculars, you can perform a search and select. Perhaps you have several thousand location A's at some point in the future. This is the place that lets you go search for it, then bring it back into the form for you. And the plus signs are to add details. In this case, you can add a location. But this is common throughout the system, this format. At the lower part of the form, we see the location and site survey information. Yes, please.
Yeah, just to give an example, if you're a sales engineer, this is typically the way you interact with the system. You would come in and say, I have a MediaCast customer that is going to be sending us content, so I want to connect them with a DS3 from our Los Angeles POP to their location, which is someplace in Santa Monica, and I need this kind of equipment installed as part of the service, a router, maybe a server, and I need it done by this date. And essentially you order that system, that into the system, and it takes off from there, and it's going to go to eventually to all those people that are listed on the left-hand side, to the people in the provisioning group, to the people in the implementation group, to the people in the operations group, so that they do what they need to do to make sure that this happens over the next 45 days. Somebody has to bring up the circuit, somebody has to show up with somebody has to configure and get a router and configure it and ship it to that site, and somebody has to show up on site to install it. This system essentially allows all of those groups to track those tasks that is specific to them.
How about the process that goes on now where we're required to do site surveys and things such as that? Since now you're going to
exactly, that's all in here. It's all going to be in here. So in your case, Doug, you go on site and you say, I'm going to be talking to NetRail, and they have a POP in Atlanta that we need to e-power. So we want to order a DS3, and you can go as part of the circuit type, order a DS3, and you say, I want a standard MediaCast distribution package, maybe package number 1, which is a server and a router and a switch. And this is the location that it needs to be dropped off at. And again, you enter that into the system, you enter your site survey information into the system, you put some notes in here, and again, the provisioning folks, the implementation folks, the customer engineering folks, and the operation folks get fed that information from here and run with it. The field ops folks will also be involved in this, where they'll have a tab that's specific to them, so they know that, you know, on October the 16th, DS3 is coming up for NetRail, and we need to hook them up into the GSRs, and we need to go on site and install a router and put a server in there and manage it and worry about it. So all of those things will be tracked in the system. Sorry, Steph.
No, thank you. That's good. Let's look at an example of detail. This is what customer detail looks like. Again, the customer information came from another system, and so the data is non-changeable. We wanted to do a location search. We bring up the location search screen, and it allows you to enter data in one or several fields. You can make that search as narrow or as wide as you like. As the example, we've chosen to select POP as a type of location. We click on search, and we get search results. I'm going to point out a few things here. Once you've received the results, you have a list of POPs that are identified as that type of location. You highlight or select the location that you want, and you click OK. But before we move on, can we back up one? In each of these search screens, you'll have the capability to adjust the column width, just like you do in Excel. You'll be able to sort the columns. There is a vertical freeze pane bar, if you're familiar with that. Some of the other applications, you can move that left to right, and the column to the left will stay in place, even though you use the scroll bar to scroll your information from left to right. So we've got some of those capabilities in, make it a little easier to get around screens. This is a case where we've clicked the blue cross, if you will, sign to add a location. What I've shown here is detail that's been entered, but it's the minimum information that's required in order to do a location. So you can actually create a location right at this point if you don't have one and enter it into the system. So we've created an order, we've created a location, looked at the customer information, pended the order. We go back and look at a pending order. We can select pending. Then again, we have to, from the second column, we have to select the order that we're interested in. Pops up. All of the fields, with the exception of the order number, are still changeable because the order's been pended. The order number's been assigned by the system. You can't change that. Let's see. Yes.
On the location A site survey.
Say the question again, please.
Location A site survey, you see the detail
Right.
down there on location Z. Is there not information to be put in about A? Or is that always assumed to be our pop?
Yeah, there is.
Not on this order. Location Z is the only new site survey information that you can use.
Because of the type of order it is, or?
So you can select any location A, any location Z. You just zoom in and say, I want it to be this particular location. Essentially what it is you have a list of locations. There's a table that has a list of locations. You enter a list of locations and you say, this particular location is, say again, you know, our Portland POP or our Los Angeles POP, or it could be the customer's POP in Atlanta. And you have that in your list of locations. And essentially you get to use that over and over and over again. You have all the information pertinent to that location, including SILI code, address, contacts in that particular zoom in.
Right. You get the same selection list for location A as location Z. Okay, so if you want to see the site survey information about a particular location, then you just would click location Z.
Okay, you just have to have A or Z highlighted so you see that at the bottom.
Well, associated with an order,
Right.
we're only interested in Z.
We're only capturing location Z site information on an order.
Right.
Do you think are you going to be able to go through examples? Because again, I'm assuming this works for like DW48 services as well.
And that particular thing has not been done. You're right. We don't capture, in this particular case, location A detailed information. Basically on the assumption that most of that will be on our own premises. Longer term, we might have to change it to support AFTS.
Well, I'm just saying, what if this product was, like you said, a deal where you got to get a local loop to the customer, so you'd have to have, obviously, our POP address, the customer's address, and then you got on the other side, you'd have to have our POP address and the customer's address, where you're ordering local loops to it. The DS3 local loop, if it was some sort of a transport service.
That sounds like that
Not
needs to
included
go on
in
our
release
future
one?
requirements list. Yeah, that's not included in release 1.
For now, what you can do is track it in the notes. Just
Right. There's
manually
also
enter
comments. You can put anything you want in comments.
Are you going to go through an example so we kind of see how this flows in a live, like on the live form?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just wait. I'll probably come
On the
over
order side. Okay. Let's not do a slide. I want to speak to the screen. Once an order is posted and it's in process, the information you see at the top third of the screen is not changeable, but the comment section can be updated, additional comments can be made after it's posted, and site survey information can be made after it's posted. And once that's done, of course, you could update the order. Again, history and search is where you're going to be able to look up order information. This is detailed, but you can point to an order and walk back to an order. Let's look at a screen. There's actually the basic screen where we've indicated history. We want to look at history. We've selected a search area of tasks. Just probably more likely you're more interested in orders, but as the example, these all work the same way, and it brings up the same search screen that we saw before on locations. Again, you have search criteria, but it's specific to the functional area that you've selected. In this case, we've decided we wanted to see in process. And so we clicked on the search button, and the search results give us all of the in process orders. Again, we need to select a particular order. In this case, we show 174. Actually, one of the things that was done on this one, the number 1 says click to sort. Decided to click on desired due date because we knew it was a later order. Then selected the order we wanted, and then we do an open.
Stan, there was a comment earlier about what the circuit ID would look like, and here's some examples.
Oh, okay. Yes. Circuit IDs are, here's some examples of circuit IDs. Both. Go ahead.
The product code, the NC code, a unique serial number that's generated by the system, your circuit type, and then they'll always end in ENR for Enron.
Also, you see the product codes that have been put together. To describe that product code, the P2 is obviously the product you're familiar with. The AA is a circuit ID. It's been associated with circuit. And the BY in the first line is associated with an equipment package. And that's what the system uses to associate equipment, circuits, and all the tasks with a given order. Okay, we selected the order 174 and clicked OK. There, OK. And wanted to point out that it defaults, and I think it's a good default, to all of the tasks, but then you're allowed to do a filtering, if you will, or selection by group, resource, and task status. So on the next slide, we've chosen to do that. We've picked the provisioning group, the resource, and the task status. So that allows you to filter on any combination of those 3 items. So it narrowed it down to the tasks that are available to that person for that order. Yes?
Is this a screen where when, say, someone in provisioning completes that task, that they would come here and
Yes,
check
it is.
this? Now, are they the only
Not
ones
this
allowed?
way. They wouldn't come in this way.
Okay.
I mean, it's
And obviously, provisioning are the only folks who can touch the provisioning checkboxes, and implementation is the only folks who can do their part. And are field operation tasks in here yet, or is that?
I don't know.
No, this is our development database. So this
Well-
isn't real live data.
Well, what I'm
There
saying,
will be
what I'm
field
saying is,
There will be a field ops.
I'm in field ops, and I want to know, when is my circuit going to be delivered, and when do I need to bolt the gear into the racks and that sort of thing.
Right,
Those will be there.
in production.
Exactly.
Yes, they will be there. And so that's the key functionality. We didn't go through building equipment packages. I'm saving that for a different group. How tasks are built, how tasks are associated. There's quite a bit more behind the system so that it can automatically create those lists. But that's the order entry, location, and search. I don't know, whenever you take a break, we have booklets on the table that contain this information whenever you want to come and get it. Any other questions? We're going to do a short demo. Okay, this should look just like the overhead. We now have the blank screen without all the funny stuff on it telling you what to do. But we've selected a new order. One of the things I'd like to point out is that you'll notice that it's blued or grayed out. This is common throughout the system. When you've selected a function, it'll turn gray or blue. So let's enter some information. We have a drop down for completion dates. Desired completion dates. We'll pick December sometime. We can select customers.
Well, the desired due date, search back to a standard interval, and if you put in something that's not standard, will it somehow tell you it's not standard?
I don't know about standard as much as that's defined within the tasks. The tasks are considered standard. I'm not exactly sure that how the question of you pick the date.
Well, let's
maybe.
say I want the due date to be tomorrow, but it takes a month. Is it going to let me input an order that I say the due date
Sure.
is tomorrow?
Sure.
What will happen, it's based on the product and circuit combination that you enter. There's a task template defined with how long it's going to take to provision that circuit, and the system will calculate an order due date that you can give the customer. If the desired due date you enter is earlier than the system-generated date, you'll get a message saying you're going to create this order in conflict. You can go ahead and do that at that point. This order will be forever in jeopardy.
Yeah, it
until-
enters in
all the way
jeopardy
through.
automatically, so
Yes.
it immediately turns red.
Right. Or if you get that message, then you can go adjust with the customer what the desired due date is. Okay?
When you say it's in jeopardy, it will continue on in process. It just will not be fulfilled by X date. Okay.
That's also applied for everybody to expedite their tasks where possible.
Is it possible to have a pull-down menu, or what would be a type of circuit?
So this one, this is an interval field.
CNC code.
Stan's going to provide a handout later today that will give you all of the valid circuit type codes or NC codes. In a future release, this will be a drop-down box.
Are there anything built in where if Kenny Burroughs didn't actually authorize this order, that where it would flow to him first before it's actually authorized? Or?
No.
Okay.
Honor system.
Honor system.
For sales.
Remember, we keep all the data.
Melody, could you zoom in into one of the location information or add a new one?
Well, what we can do here is show you the details.
Yes.
And this is slow because we're in dial-up.
We're in dial-up. So there's location details.
Now, where is this database stored? We have a POP database somewhere else that
It's on ECOMS, right? Yeah, it's all ECOMS.
It's all part of ECOMS, which is part of the Oracle data store.
Are you familiar with the project with that POP database?
Yes.
Are we going to scrap that and use this?
Essentially,
much better
information. Right. This is the way it's going to be stored. And essentially, what's going to happen, for instance, is that all of the internal orders will eventually be tracked on this. So as we build POPs, they'll be tracked on this. All of the pending e-powered ISP orders will be tracked here as well as pending orders. You can see on the bottom of this page that you can save an item as a pending item. So what the sales engineers on the distribution side, as well as Jeff and Matt and Bobby, and Ben and Steve and company will do is we'll create a number of things as pending orders, which at some point will turn in as posted orders. But this way allows us to track what are the things that are in the process of being ordered but not quite ready to be ordered because of whatever, with PSI, with NetRail, with GTE.
But I didn't think this system could do an off-net order today. You could order a local loop and track it through the system today, which is what you do all day long for ISP POPs, right?
This is exactly what this does, is you order off-net circuits. Essentially, once I order a DS3 from a particular location A to a particular location Z, what's going to happen is that that piece of it is going to go to provisioning and say, okay, for this particular order, we need to get a DS3 from the Atlanta POP to this particular POP. And the provisioning folks will work with their vendors to get the circuit designed and implemented off-net.
So this is creating or tracking an off-net order.
Absolutely.
If you wanted to buy a DS3 from New York to LA, same thing.
Absolutely.
What if the salesperson chooses incorrect location?
Try server application.
What was your
What
question?
if the salesperson, like for example, I see Atlanta Colo and I see Atlanta, well, I didn't see Atlanta Pop necessarily, but that makes a difference if you choose the Pop or the Colo. One's our permanent facility, one's, I mean, obviously that would go to something like provisioning. Provisioning would say, oop, no, that's not right. Would the salesperson have to correct that? Would they just go ahead and correct it and move it on?
Well, I don't know who would actually correct it.
Well, you can modify your location A and location Z up until the point where you post the order.
Right.
Okay? So you can create this order as pending and leave that pending as long as you need. But once it's posted, you can't change those. Then the order needs to be canceled.
Those are some of the dirty details that sales sometimes don't need to know about. In my opinion, maybe there are other folks that have opinions here about it, but just as long as the customer gets their circuit on time and their product on time, who cares if it comes from Portland or Houston, cost-wise, but they do.
So I guess let's take that example. So let's say you're ordering a DS3 from the Atlanta POP to XYZ ISP. The product is just, I don't know what the product is. All you're doing is hooking them up for enabling the e-power nature.
Let's say you've got a full product 2 server installation in Houston, and the person is actually closer to New Orleans, and New Orleans doesn't have those servers. How does there's some things here that the sales folks aren't necessarily going to be privy to.
My answer to that is that you're absolutely right. There are times where sales does not neither care where the service is delivered from.
Right.
For now, I think what we have to do is just get a base going and start out with something.
Yeah. Well,
that's where we're going out.
I guess provisioning would be the folks who would know that and say, well, okay,
So-
not New Orleans POP, let's go to Houston POP
Right.
to deliver.
In fact, that has happened. I mean, with Country Cool, we had originally thought that we were going to go to have one circuit to, say, Washington, D.C., and then we ended up with 4 circuits to New York, Dallas, Houston, and Chicago. So it changed after we submitted the order. So that will happen. Again, this is just going to start us out. Eventually, some of that functionality or responsibility for sales and sales engineering to say where we connect to may go away, and we'll just say, hey, all we care about is get connected. We don't care where to. But for now, we have to start with something, and this is, where we're starting with, say, let's, so as a sales engineer, I might have to sit down with you and with the provisioning and say, well, look, I'm going to order this thing, where should I order to? And have a quick discussion, decide, and then order it. But later on, this will change.
Will orders be going through sales, or will most orders still be controlled by sales engineering? Because in that case, sales engineering will be able to put a stop on it regardless, because the sales engineers, we should know what pops we should be able to serve out of. And be able to control and help the salesperson not to make that mistake.
Right. My take is that the sales and sales engineer folks work very closely on, all of these orders, but it is primarily the responsibility of the sales engineer to work that out with provisioning, with implementation, with operation, and everybody else.
Well, I guess my question is like answered. So take that example of what we do every day. You're hooking up an ISP, and let's say it's in a local town like DC, where in theory it's easy enough to go from a DC POP to an ISP, and all you need is a local loop, right? And you want to do a DS3. What is that product called, and then what are all the related orders? You should be able to say, like, e-power POP installation is like the product name, and then one of your related order is the DS3 pipe, another related order is the equipment install, and maybe, 2 or 3 other things, I don't know.
Well, with every order, you associate a product code, a circuit code, and an equipment package. Okay, and those 3 pieces make up one order. Does that answer your question?
Say it one more time.
Okay. Every order is driven by the fact that you select one product code, one circuit code, and one equipment package. Okay, and those 3 components drive all of the tasks, all of the equipment that comprise this order.
So in this example, is that one of them, or is this a different product?
Right, so in this example, the product would be product 3, e-powered media cast. We've selected a T1, you could select a DS3. And what this shows you is these are the valid circuit types that are valid for that product, P3. Somebody has gone in and set up these combinations, okay?
Yeah, I mentioned that as a requirement, so that has to be set up regardless of what kind of circuit it is. There has to be an association between that circuit and the product code made prior to the placing of the order.
Okay. And then you have to know those 2 components before you can start the order. Okay, once you post this order, those basic circuit provisioning tasks then are generated so that they can start on that critical path queue. Then behind the scenes, the sales engineers, customer engineers take a look at this, and they'll determine what's the valid equipment package to go for this customer, for this order. Then there's a point in the system later where they can assign an equipment package to that order, which identifies every single piece of equipment that's needed.
So is AFTS a product here? For
Yes.
the initial release?
Those
Yes.
are not the
Yes.
definitive list of products. That's just a sample. So
Right.
it might
This
be
again is our development
media
database.
cast, distribution kit or distribution package or whatever, e-powered ISP kit or whatever.
So that would be a product.
Yes.
That
Right.
would be
And
one of
that's the list that you see of products there is not a definitive list.
Is the data tracked per customer? Let's say Internap, if they already have 1 million connections from us, they have 5 OC12s or whatever, and they don't need any more circuits. Is that still does this database, number 1, know that? And number 2, just able to order whatever product they want instead of the circuit, which they already have?
You have the option of, Melody, correct me, of not ordering a circuit. You can just say, I want to order equipment, but it doesn't necessarily know what you will need. It's not going to figure that out. You can get a list of equipment. That'll be a report where you'll get a list of equipment or a list of connections we have to Internet. But above and beyond that, you'll have to decide what you need yourself. Or the sales engineer and the customer engineering folks, as well as the operation and implementation folks will decide that. So you have an option of ordering something without a circuit, or you have the option of ordering a circuit without equipment. Those are all considerations.
Right. And the way the system handles this, it's going to require you to make a selection in every one of those fields. And what's going to have to happen is there's got to be a valid code that says no circuit for this order. Okay?
When will sales engineers have this on their desktops?
September 13th.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Why aren't we using silly codes for location?
We are.
Right, but they're, it's not up there.
It's behind, if you go and zoom in, you'll see the silicone in there. It's just that they're using a
Open and load.
sort of a name just to sort of track it easier than silicone. But everything is tracked by silicone.
Okay, so.
Are we gonna just use base city codes? Because if it's a private pop, it's not gonna actually have a dedicated silicone that's been dropped down.
In many cases, the silicone is what the provisioning folks will track and enter. If I'm a sales engineer, I may or may not know the silicone for a particular location. You have the option of leaving that blank. The operation guys, the provisioning folks have a database where they will figure out the silicone. If there isn't one, they'll construct a silicone for that facility.
So they all built for registered, right?
All Belco registered silicones. We have a database, I forget what the database is called, that allows us to get silicone information.
Clones.
And again, you're looking at test data.
It's just that, we keep referring, just kind of to these things like the LA pop or the LA co-locate. Eventually, we're gonna get multiple pops and multiple co-locates. And it's gonna be, I think it's almost culture just easier to have everyone just start going over referring to by silicone. Because I went through this from when WorldCom was very small to when WorldCom was very large, and eventually we got multiple pops, and eventually everyone had to kind of make that mental shift and start referring to site by silicone.
You can search by silicone.
Well, I guess it's, I think it's just kind of a bad habit to start to referring to the Atlanta COLA, because pretty soon, within a year or something, there's going to be multiple COLAs. So might as well just start going over the silicone right now and get used to get into that habit.
Well, what you're speaking to is you're going to need unique location names, and then when they become so many of them, what becomes unique is the silicone.
It would, I don't know if it's within ECI's plans, but it gets really bad when you start doing multiple acquisitions of several other companies, which WorldCom did, and then then you really get multiple colos and multiple pops in one city.
Well, the system can be tailored, and so when the time comes, those changes can be made.
Are we gonna use the same driving in which most telcos use as far as central spots, like for instance IAD, BWI? Are we gonna start breaking it down that our pops are basically specifically set up that we have central pops are gonna be basically named by that same nomenclature in which most people use, which is basically the airport setup?
I don't know, Marat, who knows
Well,
how the naming is going to be constructed?
Yeah, but see, I'm just saying, on silicodes, if we start giving every particular, even colo pop a silicode, then you have to look back and see if that particular silicode basically refers back to your central pop, or does it refer to a colo? Most times, even like, for instance, within WorldCom, you would say IAD1, IAD2. You knew what pop centrally that line was coming out of. Then you could give a silicode for the colo. So you knew that what that customer side was at that point.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, internal to operations, we try and stick to those abbreviations.
Okay.
Those for labeling on our gears.
Any other questions? Guess we could add comments. Show detail.
Now, when you do again, I'm not a sales engineer, so I shouldn't have to worry about it, I don't think, but all that stuff, the signaling and line coding and jack type, that's all like Belcor stuff, like, HCE and all that jazz, is that, or EHCF, is that the kind of stuff you're looking for down there?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think any of those fields are required. Maybe at some point you have to have information in there, but from a system standpoint, I don't think it requires anything, right, Melody?
But in theory, the provisioner then would take that information and then put that on their ASR to US West or whatever.
Yes.
And again, I suppose they would even have.
That's as far as we were planning on taking the demo today.
Were you
You
gonna
have a
post
question?
the order and show it or not?
Yeah, I just
I think she,
posting.
oh, I think
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah, this is dial-up, so the
Right.
performance is not fine-tuned and not ideal. I think Melody was gonna mention if somebody wants to demo.
Yeah, what time? Just any time this afternoon?
If you want to stop by after work, I'm not sure what time your meetings are over today, but if you just want to come over.
Third
okay,
floor?
After 5 o'clock, third floor, rock bottom, ECOMS Development Lab, I'll be happy to show the real system to you.
So we get a notice it's been saved.
And again, once you post an order, if you're a sales engineer, once you post the order, you have very little opportunity to change things on that order.
That's
So
correct.
you want to make sure that you gather as much information and make sure that you double check it, triple check it to make sure it's correct before you post it. Because once it's gone, and you can't change it. It has to be canceled, and at this point, I'm the only person set up to cancel orders.
Are you gonna have a pending field, meaning that we can actually do a order without start an order, but don't turn in an order?
Exactly, save as pending at the bottom. That was the intent, so that if, Doug, you're an engineer, a sales engineer, talking to NetRail, and you've got 6 pops that you want to e-power with them, you collect as much of the information as you can as pending orders, but you won't complete it until you get all the full details about your site survey. And then once you have each one of them, you will post them, and they'll get posted, and then from that point, the provisioning, the implementation folks will accept it and will start working on it. Until they're posted, they won't do anything with it. Once it's posted, it is officially recorded with them. It starts going into their workflows, and Inessa and Kelly and all of those guys will have to start worrying about ordering a circuit. David Rollins and company have to worry about ordering equipment and configuring equipment, and then have to work with implementation and operations and field ops to make sure we install it and bring it up.
What are the methods of access to ECOMS? Do you have to either be A, on dial-up, or B, here? In other words, can you access it through the internet, so a faster connection for those folks who can?
We don't have internet access.
Is that?
on one of those functions, not
Okay, all right, sorry.
access, but it's definitely on the list.
It's part of the IT infrastructure.
We have to be on the LAN.
Dial-up or
LAN
dial-up or otherwise. And sales engineers and sales reps will have access to this?
Yes.
And it'll be available if you're in a remote office. The folks in IT are going to send us
Yes.
CVs, I assume?
Yes. And
Okay.
I got a question. What about the backside of stuff? I mean, the part that the provisioners are using, for example, they're designing the circuit, let's say, so they got the CFA from the local loop provider, they got the port on the router, they got the, maybe the circuit ID from the IXC from city A to city Z, and then they got the, the local loop and CFA information on the other side. Where is all that information housed?
that's all in here. Melody's going to
Right.
show you.
It's down here in the circuit assignment and the equipment assignment. I'm not going to show it to you here today because these are real data-intensive screens, and on dial-up mode, it'll take a lot of time. But if you are interested, I'll show those to you later today. But all the circuit information, all the equipment details are right in these 2 icons right here. And from your perspective, all that detail is also available in history right here. Circuits, equipment. You can see all of the tasks, all of the orders. Okay, so that's all available for view.
Could you show the orders screen as well?
This one?
Yeah, in process. So again, if you're an engineer, sales engineer, or part of customer engineering or implementation or field ops, you can look at orders that are in process and see that, there are this many orders with Easy Street, and this many orders with Epic, and this many orders with Sony or Fineworks, and you can go in and see the details. Again, if you've logged in as a sales engineer, you won't have the ability to change much on that.
What do you mean by change much? I'm sorry.
You will not be able to change the kind of circuit you've ordered. Once you've posted the order, it's beyond your control. The provisioning folks and the implementation folks have control of it. So you as a sales engineer won't be able to change the location. Once you've ordered a circuit to a particular location, it's gone, it's in process. And unless you want to, if you want to change it, the only option is to cancel it and start from scratch.
One more question about the provisioning side of things. Is this system also, does this house the inventory, so to speak, of the network? So if I have a GSR router and a customer POP, I know how many cards, let's say, or ports I have installed at the time. I assume when I provision a circuit, I've identified that particular port, and I know that I've got, say, a DS3 slot left and a 100, megabit slot
Today
left,
it
and I've got
doesn't.
another whatever.
Today it doesn't, it will in the future. That's envisioned as future releases.
These are itself, but not the slot and port.
So
This
you
first-
wouldn't necessarily know if it was out of the port.
There was no
That's right.
doing that.
Exactly.
Again, obviously, you all know that's critical, but, so
Right.
that's coming soon.
One of the future releases, it hasn't been designated which one yet. The intent of this release is to, as quickly as possible, get a place to start taking orders, start to inventory your circuits, and start to inventory your equipment to get a handle on it.
Being able to do that correlation is so much more database intensive than it is application. It's not really a matter of application development as much as it is database development. So Marty should have thought of that.